Okay, we are recording. At this point, I think it is time for me to show you the updateElements method, and this one is a long one. Again, this is inside the while loop, inside the run method. This is where all the calculations happen. This is just a tool that I made earlier. If we're in the middle of loading something, then we just return straight out of it. If we've got background music playing, then we check to see if the background music should loop. If it's paused, we just straight up return. This chunk of code is checking to see whether we are in the middle of a death segue or a door segue. That is to say, if the screen is fading to white in this case, or if the screen is fading to black in the case of a door. And as soon as the ticks hit 0, that is to say, as soon as we've counted down the number of ticks that it takes to fade either to white in this case or to black in this case, then in the case of death we respawn and set the death unfade, that is to say it fading from white to the regular game, to the number of frames that we have for a segue, which is 30. And we clear out the stop frame, which is the frozen image of the state of the game right as you either enter the door or die. We pretty much do the same thing for the door, except instead of respawning, we go to the load room method. Obviously, this is stored from elsewhere when the user presses enter in front of a door. Then if the door unfade ticks or the death unfade ticks are more than 0, then we count them down. We go through all the radios and check to see if the background music should restart. I don't remember whether that is essentially the update method for a radio or not. Considering that radios don't really do much along the line of updating and just sit there until you interact with them, I'd say this is probably their equivalent of the update method. And basically, this is the game constantly asking a radio, are you done playing your sound bite? If you are, then the background music should unpause. This is the dialogue display. Maybe someday maybe in some other video I will show how the dialogue display works. It's stupid complex and I'd rather not get into it and probably don't need to, but yeah. This basically sends a signal to update the dialogue display. Pretty much this only happens if there's dialogue currently being displayed. Then we go into the block manager here, which is obviously the tile map. And if the player is out of bounds on the tile map to either side, above or below, then we signal that the player died. You know, if the player died, we should probably just return from this method because nothing else is really needed here. At least I don't think so. After this, we iterate through all the blocks, and blocks essentially refers to rogue blocks. That's moving blocks, conveyors, and basically any block that isn't an NPC and isn't part of the tile map. Iterates through all of these and updates each one. There's no need to update rogue block. If those had animations attached to them, it would be necessary to update them, but they don't in this game engine, so yeah. Then we iterate through all the collected item sprites, update them, which I think amounts to switching between... Okay, moves it up a notch, continuously updates the ticks of life because that... Alright, I forget how this works. Ticks of life, max ticks of solidity, max ticks of fading. Okay, is past threshold, pays attention to how long it's existed, and if it's existed for too long, we simply remove it from the array list and decrement the counter here. If the goal sprite isn't null, we update that. Same thing with the rain. Then we iterate through all the custom NPCs, and I think another whole video is going to be dedicated to the update method for custom NPCs. Probably I'm going to have a whole different video for the update method for the player, but I'm not even there yet. All the fireball smoke. This is the smoke that trails behind fireballs as they bounce around. Each puff of smoke is basically an individual frame, or I should say an individual graphic, and that needs to get updated. Wait, why do I have that? New X position, new Y position. Okay, now I've piqued my own curiosity. Bullet sprite. Okay, with that one I add the okay, now I understand. At least I think I do. Okay, I don't understand why I created it with min value, but I'm guessing these are just generally intended to be optional parameters, and if it's min value, that means ignore it. Oh, let's see here. The smoke's cleared, then we remove it from the array list. Alright, now we check to see what direction the player is going in. Set the direction to an int that's 0 to 8. Not exactly sure what we do with that, but I'm sure it'll come to me later. Let's see. Okay, I construct a list of absolutely all doors, which includes comment doors if comment doors are switched on. Okay, I have direction here, and it's not even getting passed into the update method here. You know, I just know there's going to be some code Nazi who takes a look at this method and says, you have way too many parameters. Wait until you see the method itself. And yes, that is Roman numeral 6 there. I went through 6 different versions of this. This is the method that, among other things, does the collision detection for the player. It checks to see whether the player has been squished against a moving block. Yeah. And we pass this all doors array list in, because if the user happens to be pressing enter, then this is also the method where we check to see, okay, does the player's hitbox overlap a door? If it does, we go through the door. If the player is firing, which essentially means the user has the spacebar pressed, then we call fire bullet. We iterate through all the out-of-the-box enemies and update each one of those. Iterate through all the bullets, update each one of those, and if we can erase the bullet, then we do so. Now at this point, way after the player character update, way after the bullet update, we have this list of NPCs. If the NPC can be removed, we add it to this removable NPCs thing. We also do the collision detection in the custom NPCs. We also do the collision detection that checks to see whether any bullets have hit the enemy's weak point, assuming this NPC has a weak point. And we're double iterating here. Makes me so glad that I do not have sonar lint on this machine, because there's a lot of nested stuff here. Yeah, I like nested stuff. So we iterate through the bullets while we're iterating through the NPCs. If there's an intersection between the collision rects, then the NPC takes damage, and we remove the bullet. And if we have some removable NPCs, then after we've done all that iterating, we remove them from the custom NPCs array list. And here we do collision detection much the same way to see if enemy bullets have hit the player. I believe that if the player takes enough damage, let's see. Yeah, I believe that if the player takes enough damage, then we call the player died method, so that's baked in to take damage there. We also add fireball smoke if the enemy bullets create fireball smoke. We remove the enemy bullets if we can. I believe this checks to see whether they're off the side of the screen or not. Yeah, it basically checks to see if they're far enough off the side of the screen. We similarly iterate through the fireballs, update each one. If it intersects the player takes damage. Add the smoke, remove the fireball. Let's see. And of course we add fireball smoke for each fireball. Actually, maybe this adds some... I think it does. No? Huh. Yeah, you can see I'm scrolling past a lot of collision detection here in the bouncing object class right here, but shoot. A little bit surprised that I'm not adding fireball smoke regardless. Oh well, I guess I won't worry about that. Alright. I'm not going to worry about that for now. Here I have a list of fading enemies. What am I doing on time here? I better get moving. How much of this method do I have to go through yet? Way too much. Shoot. Alrighty then. I'm going to stop this video here and continue on in a minute.